During the snowy January at the beginning of the year 2025, I took a look at my emails and saw this email from the Pokémon Center. A peek into the future. New Year celebration, the Year of Eevee at the Pokémon Center.
2025 is the year of Eevee at the Pokémon Center. The evolution Pokémon is in the spotlight with an abundance of adorable products on the way. Spring has almost sprung, and while it is difficult to predict exactly what 2025 has in store, there is one guarantee: an abundance of Eevee. The Pokémon Center will be celebrating Eevee and each of its adorable evolutions all year long, so there are plenty of exciting products to look forward to. Yay!
I love the Eevees. They are some of my most favorite Pokemon in the whole series. In recent years, they have been even more popular within the Pokemon Company, with them putting Eevee more in the spotlight. This year would be the biggest product push for Eevee and its evolutions, so I will try to document a lot of the products that will come out during this year. Now, I probably will not get my hands on most products during this time, so if I do, I might use clips or photos from other people while crediting all the individuals who received these products. Before we get into this year, let's talk about last year. And I thought it was a good year for the Eevees. First off, we got a plush for each Eevee in June of last year, and I got all of them. The Eevee plush is very well made. It's very cute and it stands pretty well. The only nitpick I could say is that Eevee is a bit smaller compared to all the other plushes in this set, even though it costs the exact same as all the other plushes. I wish it was like a few dollars off of the price, but that's just nitpicking. Vaporeon is well designed, but there are a few major problems. One of them is that the ears are too floppy, which covers the face quite easily. And why did they have to stitch the tail on? Vaporeon's tail is one of my favorite parts of Vaporeon, and I like when it's freed out to make the pose better, like what they did with the Saiyan Cutie Vaporeon. But it does make it stand better, I guess, while being a little askew. Jolteon is a firm plush, making him not really fun to hold or pet. Not to mention the spikes on the back and the mane that's a different texture makes it a lot weirder. However, the firmness does make it the best plush at standing. Flareon. Not much to complain about. The fur is very soft and it looks good. It's really well made plush. Espeon being the one Pokemon with literal toothpicks for legs, you could probably figure out that standing up is its real weak point. And you'll be right. With the stubby legs, it's very easy for it to lean to the side, which makes it fall over with a very tiny nudge. Another problem I have is the tail. It's just off to me. I don't know if it needs to be bigger or longer, or maybe it's just the way that the tail falls to the side. It's just off to me. With Umbreon being my favorite Pokemon, you'll probably expect a huge amount of praise. But there is one problem I have. His head is too round. It's one of the biggest problems I have, and it's especially apparent when facing straight. It's a problem that doesn't really exist on the other Umbreon stuff I have, and I don't know of a way to fix it. Maybe making the ring on its head bigger might work. With Leafeon being my second favorite, are there any criticisms I have? It's the leafy segments on the body. They're made with a different texture that's kinda pokey. Like they stab your hand when you try to pet it. Especially the one on the back that gets hidden by the head. Also, the tail is very small and has no stuffing at all. Kinda wish there was a bit more done with the tail. Glaceon is honestly perfect. Out of all the plushes in this line, this one is my favorite. The patterns around its body are well made. The bangs lay low and are fun to flick around. The color of the felt is perfectly blue colored. The ears don't stand up compared to the usual Glaceon, but honestly, I quite like how they are on this plush. It gives it a different personality compared to the other plushes. Easily one of the best. Believe it or not, this is my first Sylveon plush, and it looks good. There are a few problems. The different textures they use for the ribbon and the bow can somewhat peel off and give it a ripped look, especially to the bow. The ribbons are stitched on, which does make sense, and I do like that one of them is not stitched on. It's also the worst at standing, as it's usually the one that falls over the most. And that was the whole lineup. There isn't really a name for these plushies. They're just known as the Poke Plush line, which I think is the generic name of these plushies. Overall, not a bad plush line, and they have a reasonable price. Next, we also got the release of the Kalos Sitting Cutie line, or the Pokemon Fit line, which means Sylveon can finally join the rest of the Eevees in the Sitting Cutie line. Lastly, we got a new plush lineup called the Comfy Friends plush of the original 3 Eeveelutions. These might be my favorite plushies that the Pokemon Company made. They're quite big and incredibly soft. I'm serious. People in my life would come down into my room just to hug these plushies. Here we have Vaporeon. And just look at him. He sits like a good boy. He is a good boy. The tail is finally in a good placement. It's the perfect Vaporeon plush. Now it might be a bit of a hot take, but Jolteon is my least favorite of the Eeveelutions. However, he might be my favorite of the 3. He sits perfectly, and the lack of the tail kinda works in its favor, as it sits really well on everything, and is perfect for hugging. Flareon is a bit weird. The mane around its neck isn't even stitched in, as it's very easy to move it around. It worries me a bit because it might completely pull off if you try and force it. The upper part of the tail is stitched on, and I don't mind it considering that Flareon's tail is just a giant ball of floof. Still a good plush though. And that was the big release of 2024. So let's see what the start of the Year of the Eevee will bring. So it's the start of the year. What actually came out for the Eevees? First off, something I find really strange. The Pokemon Company was basically the only place calling it the Year of the Eevee. Not the official Pokemon Twitter, not the YouTube account, and I couldn't find anything on the Japanese site either. So right away, it felt like an American only thing. Anyways, the first celebration updates were mostly restocks and carryovers. A restock of the Eeveelution dolls line, and an upcoming release for the Keychain Eevee that had already been sold in Japan. But then, we finally got something that was actually new and interesting. A series called The Evolving Personalities, a series of full resin figures of all the Eevees. Right now, they just have the original 3, but scrolling down, we get to see teasers of what the other 6 look like. I really like what they did with the Vaporeon figure, and actually having the water be a huge focus. It's easily the favorite of the 3. The Jolteon figure looks great, but this figure is definitely a look, don't touch figure. It scares me how fragile some of the pieces are, especially the little lightning bolts shooting out. Luckily, my figure has no damage, and sorry for all the people who got this item damaged. Also, the painted Pokeballs, nice touch, I like it. Flareon is a bit weird. They put in a sleeping pose, which is fine, but I just don't get the desert aesthetic. I kind of wanted a more fiery atmosphere, or at least something to do with fire. And those are currently the evolving personality figures. Definitely need to be careful handling them. Now, probably for the biggest and most expensive Eevee release for the year, the new TCG set, Prismatic Eeveelutions. The Prismatic Eeveelutions ETB, binder, poster, and sticker collections. Products that no one can get. And look, I know this set is controversial because of how heavily scalped it was and still is, but I'm not going to get into current events here. I just want to document what was released and what came in the products. Like this really cute Eevee promo. I'm not going to go super deep into TCG stuff overall, but if something stands out, I will mention it. Starting at the beginning of the month, we receive a restock of the classic Eevee Cape Pikachu and Pikachu Cape Eevee that sold out instantly. Well, maybe we can get something later this month, since Pokemon Day is right around the corner. Well, how about we get some more products from Prismatic, the Mini Tins, and Surprise Box. Just gonna say it, I like the Mini Tin box. It looks great right next to the collection. Each tin contains 2 packs, a background art card, and an Eevee coin. It is neat to collect them all since each art card is connected to get a full picture. The surprise boxes might actually be my go-to Prismatic product. You get a nice deck box and a guaranteed Eevee card. Each box includes a stamped promo of a random Eevee/Eeveelution, so it becomes a try to collect them all situation. And I have all of them except Eevee and Espeon. Well, let's continue on with more plushies from the Comfy Friends set, with Eevee, Espeon, and Umbreon. Honestly, I'm surprised they didn't make the Eevee first. The plush is good size, soft, cute, and sits well. The only problem is that the fur on its face sorta covers the nose a bit. Mine sorta doesn't have much of an issue, but others I saw online have this much worse. Now you might be wondering why I'm showing the picture of Espeon and not my plush for starters. And that is because of the changes that they did with this plush that really got on my nerves. Why did they stitch the tail on? Now I can sorta get it for the Vaporeon Poke plush, but it makes no sense for the Comfy Friend plush. Espeon's tail is one of its most interesting features, and you don't really see it when it's stitched on. A lot of people removed the few stitches to free the tail, and guess what? So did I. Also, my Espeon plush, the little fur fluffs under the ears, got unstitched. Not on purpose, but I don't mind it as it kinda gives it some character. They also didn't stitch in the mouth, which I'm also fine with. Now, with all these criticisms, I will say, this is one of the best Espeon plushes ever made. Now, if you don't want to ruin the plush and not free the tail, that's fine, but just take my word, it looks so much better with the tail freed. I'm not going to have as much to say about Umbreon, but yeah, this plush is perfect. Good at sitting, an expression that's not a derpy smile, the tail's not stitched on. This might be my favorite Pokemon plush in general. You might say that I don't like how the fur color is not black, but no. I never use pure black to color Umbreon either, and sometimes I don't like the dark black Umbreons anyway. Overall, best plush so far. So, what more is in February? Well, Pokemon released a new cooking attire and products all about Eevee, and a big Eevee plush. Yeah, this plush is massive. It's so big that it can't even fit on my shelves in the background. It's kind of a weird feeling plush. It's not soft like all the other plushies. Instead, it's a woolly feeling of sorts, kind of like the feeling inside some heavy coats. But right now, this Eevee sits on top of my big Eevee figure and graded card collection. You know, after all was released this month, maybe something would be in the Pokemon Day celebration. Just any mention of the Year of Eevee. Anything about Eevee would be fine. Just have anything about Eevee. After the disappointment of the Pokemon Day, let's hope that we have something more during March. And we actually got something. Oh, it's a Funko Pop. Now, as a collector myself, I do have respect for some products to be amazing collector's items. I never liked Funko Pops. I think they're ugly and have way too many products that make some clutter shops full of these plastic figures. I praised the evolving personality figures just for being extremely well made. I never liked Funko Pops, but somehow they are extremely popular. They basically became a teaser for upcoming figures. Also, why are we doing this in sets of 3? And there's randomly, it's just Vaporeon. Also, all the other Eevees have Funko Pops, including from a different set that looks way better. Oh wait, but this is different. It has a Pokemon Center sticker on the box. Anyways, we just wait a few more days before we actually get good products. Like the adventure keychains that finally came to the US. I don't really have much to say on these plushies. They are well made, a little smaller than the Sitting Cuties line, but are they better than those plushes? No. They're still fine plushes though. Later, we get the next product of the Prismatic line, the Booster Box. A classic box with just packs. Anyways, now for more interesting products. With the Spring Plush lineup. This is generally the first of many plush lineups that does include an Eevee, but with different Pokemon. And with the great springtime coming, I can only think of one plush that would really get me in the spirit of spring. Espeon. What, were you thinking of another Pokemon? This is Bonnet Espeon, one of the plushes I wasn't too interested in, so I never got. All the pictures shown are other people getting a plush that I don't have much to say about. And that was all with the month of March. Out of all the months we covered so far, this was generally the most disappointing. Sure, the keychains were fun, but why did it take so long to get these when we could have just gotten them imported from Japan months in advance? Let's just hope next month is better. We start April with some nice 90s apparel. How cool. That'll be $80. But this wasn't the only thing that came out. At the same time, they decided to restock some classic yet beloved plushes. The Sleeping Eevee plushes. Just the original 4 because I guess they really wanted to save the other 5 for a different day. Now, the Sleeping lineup of plushes are not my favorite. They do their job at looking like they're sleeping, but they look too fat, I guess, and you really can't adjust their bodies. Going more in depth with each, the Eevee plush is weird. I feel like the head is way too big, and I wish the tail could be adjusted more, but it's alright. Vaporeon is one of the better sleeping plushes, mainly because of the tail, which is to the point where it can only be adjusted to curl up. While I always will have the tail curl to the body, it would be nice to adjust the tail more. Jolteon is the prime example of the sleeping plush looking too chunky, especially compared to my other Jolteon plushes. It doesn't help since the spikes on the back and the lack of a tail doesn't help it with the body shape. With the previous plushes, I kinda love how the sleeping Flareon looks. Even though some of the things I don't like with the previous plushes can be applied here as well, but it kinda fits Flareon, making it my favorite of the sleeping plushes. That was the sleeping lineup so far. However, we did also get a bonus, different sleeping Eevee. This plush is supposed to sleep on its back, exactly like the pose on Pokemon Sleep. It feels weird in a kind of fun way. Like it feels spongy in a way that's fun to squeeze. More fun to handle than the previous plush, but the other plushes do look better on display. That's all for the sleeping plushes right now. Is there anything else they released this month? The Jolteon Funko Pop? Why was this not paired with the Vaporeon? But another thing released is generally one of the coolest items that I couldn't get since 1, I'm not a skateboarder, and 2, it was way too expensive. The Bear Walker custom made boards of each Eevee. The art design is so cool. I know it's just a default art on a custom background, but these are great collector's items. The only bad thing is that they only made these limited edition, with only 1,600 each, which means all of them have jacked up prices on third-party sites to get. These are generally some of the coolest items to get, and it's something I just wish I could hang up on the walls. But that doesn't mean we can't have some nice things, cause later in the week, we got the Sun and Moon pairing with the Espeon and Umbreon bookends. Just look how great these quite big figures with the honestly best Eevee pairing. These things are big and quite hefty, and honestly, don't use these as bookends since they just look better on their own with how high quality they are. You know, this was a great month. We had a lot of cool and interesting items, and the Jolteon Funko Pop. Maybe March was not the greatest month, but with how great this month was, maybe next month will be better. Wait, there's still an update. Oh, Arceus. This was quite a quiet month. Not much in terms of products for the most part. It was just the Eevee backpack worn by Penny and Scarlet and Violet, which I was never able to get, so here are some pictures. An Eevee plush that was used for golf clubs, and the prismatic SPC. The head cover plush is fine. It sort of works with my display by covering one of the poles. I don't play golf, so I don't know how useful this would be, but I have a lot more to say about the SPC. The promo is fine. I prefer the one from the ETB. The deck box is cute. I would get more use if I played the TCG a lot more. The playmat is by far the best thing in this collection. I love all the Eevees together, and just look how happy Umbreon is. Finally, the sleeves and packs are a nice inclusion, but there's definitely better ways to get packs. Overall, I like what was in this collection, but I will never buy more than one of these. Near the end of the month, we got a new set of Eevee plushes. Wait a minute, these aren't Eevees. Okay, so the Ditto has Eevee plush lineup. I don't have a ton to add. Honestly, the more I review different plushes of the same Pokemon, the less I have to say about the plush itself. And I do want a good photo shoot of these, but at some point it gets tiring trying to write about every tiny nitpick in every plush. So not much more for me to add for any of these plushes. This might be one of the shorter months to cover, and you might be wondering, well, what about the life-size plushies We'll get there when we get there. Alright, it's start of summertime and the Switch 2 release. Maybe the Pokemon Center could give us some grades this month. Well, despite that, we do actually have some cool figures, as the Evolving Personality figures now has the next reset with Eevee, Espeon, and Umbreon. The Eevee figure is definitely a playful figure. It's better that there's two of them, and each of them having a different gender. It's neat. Overall, cute figure. I like it. The Espeon is honestly my least favorite of the bunch. I know the stretching pose is unique and different, but I don't find the pose that interesting, and I find the grassland aesthetic to be overdone with this figure because Eevee, Jolteon, and spoilers, Leafeon all share the same aesthetic. While the grass is a lot brighter, that does give the idea of sunlight, I just wish they could have done more with Espeon. Like, why do they never use its psychic abilities? One of Espeon's main features. I always had this feeling that Espeon is such a simple design that ends up not looking great most of the time in official stuff. It's always just sitting in the background. And most of the time, the official art doesn't even draw a mouth on it. I know I've been ranting a lot about this Pokemon, because it's a Pokemon that I really want to like, but it's always had such a disappointing official treatment. One of the art of Espeon that I adore is the Evolving Skies artwork due to it actually using its cool abilities in a majestic way, instead of just sitting in the background. Anyways, enough with this rant. Let's move on to Umbreon, because Umbreon tells a much more interesting story here. The prowling pose is sick, and it fits Umbreon way better. It actually feels like it has a personality and intent. It's a bit of a disappointment that my figure came with a little bit of a paint error on one of its rings, but due to Umbreon selling out instantly, I decided to just accept it and try to hide the ring when it's being displayed. But I feel it's so awful for those who had worse things with this figure. So what else came out this month? We got the return of the sleeping Espeon and Umbreon. The same common problem I have with the previous sleeping plushes also apply to these two. But Espeon is way too purple. I always feel like Espeon always has a lilac color, which is a very soft purple and sort of pinkish, and I'm fine with it looking more pink than purple, but this one is just too purple for me. Umbreon's fine. The ring on its arms are a bit too low for me. That is all I have to say about him. On to the next month. Okay, there has to be something for the month of July. Maybe release the rest of the sleeping plushes? Or how about bring back the Poncho Eevees? Those are one of my favorites that I wish they re-release. Just anything. Anything at all. This was the only thing that came out this month. Okay, ignoring what happened in July, but at the start of this month, we got a very interesting product. That being the Eevee necklace partnering with the jeweler company King Ice. Just look how shiny it is. Great for anyone who has the money to afford it. Now, August is a big month for Pokemon, since that's when the Pokemon World Championships always happen. Truthfully, I was not expecting much for this month, as pretty much the whole thing was generally about the World Championships. There were a few things re-released, like playmats and sleeves, but not too much else. Maybe something could come out in October? Never mind. The final Comfy Friends trio is now here, and we finally have the full Eevee collection. Leafeon is my second favorite Eeveelution, so it hurts to say this, but I do have a few issues with this plush. First off, just like Espeon, the tail was stitched on, which makes even less sense than Espeon. I see no reason to have the tail stitched on at all. Second, the head is just too big. It's a lot bigger than the previous Eevees, plus the bigger head makes it much more top heavy. And I think with the tail stitch on, it makes it even worse. I am saying a lot of negatives, and it really saddens me that my second favorite has a lot of problems. I still love this plush, and it's nice to have a really huggable plush for one of the most gorgeous Pokemon out there. Glaceon is next, and they do not miss with the Glaceons. This might be the best plush out of the whole collection. Is it just me, or does this look more like the shiny colors? It's not a problem, and honestly it does give it more of a selling point. Glaceon is in the lower half of my personal Eevee ranking, but in plush form, it's been nothing but bangers. This is in contender with Umbreon by being my favorite in the whole lineup. Sylveon is acceptable. All the ribbons were stitched onto the body, which makes the most sense for this plush, but I like having at least one ribbon freed, so that's why one of the ribbons is hanging on side. It is quite stiff, but I still prefer it's free. Fine plush. And that is all of the Comfy Friend lineups for the Eevees. And if you want a full collection of all the Eevees in a set, I recommend you get this full line. Yeah, they're quite on the pricey end, but personally, the plushes are very high quality, and I see other people online have the general same opinion of me. Okay, now we move on to September. The month I generally always forget about. No wonder I always forget about it, because Pokemon have been hyping up their Halloween releases, as well as Legend CA. But we do have something come out this month, as we finally got the last of the evolving personality figures. Leafeon is just a gorgeous figure. Just Leafeon laying on a rock cleaning itself. It fits Leafeon really well. It's also one of the tallest figures here, which I do personally like. Also, this is one that actually arrived to me broken, with its ear completely broken off. Luckily, Leafeon doesn't sell out as quickly as Umbreon, so I was able to get a replacement for this. Glaceon, again, just doesn't miss. This figure has so much power to it. Any figure that showcased the ability of the Eevee bumps it up so high for me. There are just so many tiny details with this figure, like the small print in the snow. Amazing figure. Sylveon is cute. It fits its personality perfectly. The little cupcake gif is adorable, and there's even a funny little story with one of the cupcakes dropped on the ground. Not too much else for me to add. It's just a solid Sylveon. And with that, we finally have the full set of the evolving personality figures. A really nice lineup, but these are 100% display pieces. Please do not treat these like toys, because they will explode if you look at them wrong. Since this is a complete set now, I think it's fun to rank all the 9 figures from least favorite to most favorite. Coming in last is, no surprise, Espeon. I'm just disappointed with this figure. It's not bad, it's just that they could do so much better with Espeon. In 8th place is Flareon. It's fine with the sleeping pose, but they could have done a lot better if they added like any fiery effects to it. In 7th place is Eevee. It's a good figure, it just doesn't do too much for me. Don't have much to say. In 6th is Jolteon. This figure is low because it just scares me with how fragile it is. It's also quite small, as it's the smallest behind Eevee. In 5th is Sylveon. I like the story and personality of Sylveon, but the other figures are just better. In 4th is Leafeon. For being my second favorite, I like a lot about this figure. I do wish there were more to the grass typing of Leafeon, but I still love this figure. 3rd is Umbreon. The personality and the prowling pose are perfect. And yeah, mine has a small paint defect. Would it rank higher without that? Probably not, because I just think the top two are better. 2nd is Glaceon. The details, the aura, bumps this way up. It feels powerful, it feels alive, and the snow details are insane. And my favorite of all the figures is Vaporeon. This just hits all the correct points. The characteristics, the details of the water, and the interesting story that comes from this. Now, what else could we say come out in September? We got this card display, this cute little Eevee plush with a Pokemon Center hat, pulling a card to display your favorite card. It comes with a plastic card protector that is so small you can't put a penny sleeve on the card for more protection. So it's best not to put your highly valuable cards in here, so just go for a middle of the road expensive card for the Eevee to hold. He also holds the card at an angle, so it's better to have him above eye level so you can see the card clearly. So yeah, September was mostly wrap up the figures and one tiny card holder, which means October should be better, right? Now during October, the Pokemon Company really likes supporting the Ghost and Dark types during this month. Does that mean more Umbreon? Kinda, since they have accessories for the TCG of Umbreon with Espeon. And some seasonal stuff with Sylveon. Not the first Pokemon I expect to be on the holiday set. I probably would use the one that was the full promo for the holiday calendar this year. But I guess Sylveon holding an Eevee cookie is the best way to celebrate the holidays. The big plush release this month was the Eevee doll keychain plush set. Now, I wanted to get them all, but I was only able to afford getting the Umbreon, Leafeon, Vaporeon, and Jolteon. Honestly, I prefer these over the other keychains that came out earlier this year, especially as actual keychains, as I feel like the other plushes are just too much. These are just the right keychain plushes, not much else for me to add on. And that was all of October. Hopefully, the month with the Eevee Day should be better. Another sad month for Eevee. And it's extra painful because November has Eevee Day and we basically get nothing. There was a really cute collection that came out in Japan, the one where each Eeveelution has their paw up, but so far, nothing here. Even the giant Eeveelution plushes got delayed. So yeah, November was rough. Wait, weren't those socks that came out this month? And no one cares about those. The only thing we got this month was the last 3 Sleeping Eevee plushes, with Leafeon, Glaceon, and Sylveon. To give a quick recap, I feel the same about these plushes than I do the other sleeping plushes. Yet another underwhelming month, which is strange because this month probably would have the most stock available for the holidays, and yet nothing new. And we end off on a disappointing finale to the Year of Eevee. As an Eeveelution fan, this felt great and awful at the same time, as though we did get so many cool representation of Eevee, and yet so little as well. I'm disappointed that nothing else came out for Eevees, but I want to spend the rest of this time talking about the things I want to mention that happened this year. First, let's talk about Prismatic. And I don't want to beat a dead horse and talk about the absolute horror that was the scalping issue for Prismatic. But I will say this. This was the first time in a long time that I've actually sit down and opened the packs. And I had a lot of fun doing that. And while it was a pain, it was so much fun opening the packs, especially with other people. Because pulling a high value card by yourself is a lot less exciting than pulling it with a friend. Now let's talk about some other products in this line. I'm not going to talk about every single product. What do you want me to say about the Costco maintenance set? It's basically the exact same but without the cool display box. The first product I want to talk about is the Tyranitar and Lucario Premium Box, exclusive to Sam's Club. Probably the first non-Eevee Pokemon I'm talking about, but it includes the Eevee set, so I'm adding it. Now this box is a huge value. 14 packs for around $55, that's about $4 a pack. But I'm not going to talk about the pulls from that, because I have a funny story with that. I was able to score one box from this at Sam's Club at MSRP, but I was only able to afford one box. It came, we opened it, had some fun, didn't pull anything that's too great. But the thing is, I got sent a second one. I have no idea why they sent a second one. I didn't get any emails, I didn't get any notifications, they didn't even charge me for it. They just sent a second one. And the thing is, I don't have both the jumbo cards or the stance promo of the EXs, so it's hard to actually say. But the only thing I actually have 2 of from this box that I remember are the 2 Tyranitar with these simple stamps. I still have no idea why they sent me 2 of them. Am I complaining? No. But it was just a funny story that just happened. Next, I feel like it's important to talk about the final product that usually came out around this year for Prismatic, that being the Prismatic figure collection. This is quite a hard product to find, but I was lucky enough to get it just around MSRP. This comes with a nice Espeon and Umbreon promos, finally getting a promo card for each Eevee in this set. Some very nice sleeves, an Espeon and Umbreon pin, and the figure this whole collection was named after. The figure is quite small, but it is cute. Umbreon really makes this figure pop with Espeon just standing in the back. Next, I want to talk about a different set other than Prismatic, but another set that came out this year, that not only deserves to be called a true Eevee set, but has some of my favorite card arts. That being the Pokemon Chinese Volume 2 set. I call this the true Eevee set because it's nothing but Eevee cards. Except for a very few cards. But if you want a set with lots of Eevees, then you should look into this set. Because you will get Eevees. Lots of Eevees. Now the thing about this set is that most of the cards come from previous sets, like Evolving Skies. However, There are 4 specific artwork cards in this set. The gorgeous Leafeon, the playful Sylveon, the sleepy Umbreon, and the happy Eevee. And I was lucky enough to get one of them. The Sylveon. I do love this card a lot, but man do I wish I had the rest of them. The last thing I want to mention about the cards is, you're probably asking yourself, hey, you opened a lot of prismatic cards, did you actually pull some SIRs? Yes, and most of them are graded because I want to experiment with card grading itself. The first SIR I pulled was the Patreon SIR. Now, this card haunts me. Not for the fact it has a 9, but because I pulled 2 of them. Yes, you heard that right. This is my first SIR and my 3rd SIR I pulled from Prismatic. Me and some friends opened some packs at a local card shop, and immediately when I pulled this, I traded it straight in because I already had one. And ever since then, this Pokemon haunts me. I haven't really played much of the Scarlet and Violet DLC, so I don't really know much about this Pokemon. But every single time I see Patreon, I just get haunted by this being the only SIR Pokemon I can pull from Prismatic. The second SIR I pulled from this set was the Crispin SIR. Now, I'm generally with the majority that I do not like the trainer SIRs, especially since they are the same rarity as the Pokemon. But this one, I actually don't mind. I think it's quite a fun card. I think it is quite a fun card, especially for a character I just do not know anything about. Okay, I just looked up this character. First off, it's a guy. I always thought it was a girl. They're also a child. And then the first member of the Elite Four of the DLC. Okay. Now, I did pull 2 other SIRs, but I traded both of them. One I know for sure was the Lacey SIR. Probably easy to see why I traded that. And the second one was one of the Ogerpon masks. I don't remember which one. It might have been the Wellspring one. But I do remember pulling the teal one from like the Japanese set. Both of them were traded, so I still don't really know which one it was. But I know it was at least one of those 2. But as for Eevee cards, nothing too exciting. In fact, the best Eevee card I pulled were a few EXs, but I think the best one I pulled was the Master Ball Jolteon, which you can't really see it, but that's a Master Ball Jolteon. But it wasn't all bad, because I did pull an Eevee SIR. Just not the English set. I guess I'm just really lucky at getting my least favorite Eevee pull. But do I give up? No, I do not. Because I had a desperate attempt. At least getting one Eevee from the English set. After some time, I decided to just give in and get one. I didn't pull it, I had to buy it. Okay, we're done with all the cards, so now let's talk about some other stuff that happened this year. Let's talk about some other plushes. I don't have anywhere else to place them. Now, Jazzwares is a very big toy manufacturer who are licensed by the Pokemon Company to produce products. Now, they are a big manufacturer and also have lots of products in highly recognizable stores like Walmart or Target. So you might actually recognize these plushes, as we have the Sleeping Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon plush. My thoughts on these plushes? I prefer them to the official Sleeping plushes. The feeling in all of these plushes are a lot softer. Plus, their designs are, in my opinion, a lot better. Flareon here was, I believe, the first Eevee plush made in this lineup. I could be wrong, but it was the first plush I found. Very soft and huggable. Jolteon came out a few months after, although I think it may be a Target exclusive, while Flareon is a Walmart exclusive. Jolteon is still soft as Flareon, but not as fun to hold, due to its mane being a little weird, and the spikes on its head being rough. Still a fine plush though. Vaporeon I also found at Walmart, and it finally has a tail you can freely move around. The fins on its back are rough, so I still think Flareon is the best. But overall, in my opinion, all these are still better than the official sleeping plushes. I also saw the Sylveon Jazzware plush going around Target, but I was never able to find one. Now, I mentioned the Eevee collection, but I have not done the set justice. So let's look at this lineup and give it the recognition it deserves. The Eevee collection is a collection of every single Eevee. All Eevees have a ribbon on with their paw raised up. This includes products like plushies, pouches, patches, pillows, coaster, towels, and so much more. Let's talk about each plush, since they are the cutest and will probably be the most profitable product of this collection. Like I said, each plush has a ribbon on with one of their paws raised up. Umbreon, Leafeon, and Glaceon have their right paw up, while all the rest have their left paw up. It is very cute when you pair up a plush with the right paw up to one with the left paw. Their paws touching looks more romantic than anything. Each Eevee kinda wears their ribbon in a different way. Some of the Eevees it feels like you can take off and change the location of the ribbon, those being Espeon, Umbreon, Leafeon, and Glaceon. Eevee, Jolteon, and Flareon only has a bow knot. It might be because their fur covers the ribbon, but still cute. Vaporeon has the knot on its tail. I like it. It gives it more uniqueness. Glaceon's knot is on backwards. Honestly, gives it extra personality. I like it a lot. Sylveon doesn't have any knots on the ribbon, but it is still wearing a ribbon around its neck. It is completely different from the other ribbons. So yeah, my summary of the plushes, they're incredibly cute. They also have a wall mount product in a collection, so people can display them on the wall, which is honestly a really good idea. So that was the Year of Eevee. Was it a marketing scheme? Absolutely. But it also reminds me why Eevee had stayed so special for so long. Eevee is a Pokemon that has one of the most opening histories of any Pokemon. Back in the very first game, you didn't catch Eevee. You were given one, and right away, the game asks you a question it rarely asks. What do you want this Pokemon to become? At the start, you only had 3 choices: Vaporeon, Jolteon, or Flareon. But over time, those choices grew. Espeon, Umbreon, Leafeon, Glaceon, and Sylveon, until Eevee became a Pokemon defined by possibility. There is a special connection between the player and this Pokemon, because it isn't just a creature you collect. It's a companion you shape. It's the Pokemon that grows with you, and the one that feels closest to the player's own journey, adapting, changing, becoming something new. To the Pokemon Company, this was just another Pokemon, but to the fans, Eevee is special. And after all these years, it finally feels like they've given it the spotlight it deserves. Not just as another mascot, but as the secondary mascot right behind Pikachu. And, for a lot of people, even more beloved. There's a saying people repeat a lot. Every Pokemon is somebody's favorite. And Eevee is one of those rare cases where it's not just one Pokemon. It's a whole family of favorites. A whole set of designs so loved that it's generally hard to find anyone who doesn't have at least one Eeveelution they care about. And the sad truth, Pokemon aren't real. But the memories, art, stories, and friendships are. And if something can stay with you for years, if it can inspire creativity, comfort, and connection, then it doesn't need to be real to matter. That's why Eevee will always work. Not because of merch, promos, or trends, but because it represents the part of Pokemon that people carry with them forever. You know what? It's a good thing I didn't do all the giant plushes at once, because I didn't have the time to just review them or the budget to actually afford them. It's probably a good thing that I didn't even get these giant plushes. I mean, they're just too big to put anywhere. I mean, these sleeping guys are outside this room, so where else can I even put them? You know what? I think it's just best if we just don't even mention them. I mean, do I need to even just talk about every single one of them just in the background? Why would I need to? I don't see a reason why.